How's it going, Kelly? You doing okay today?
I'm well. How are you, Cody?
I'm good. It's a Sunday. We skipped church today so I can get some other stuff done. I was backed up all week long. But yeah, feeling good. Usually I have the parakeets up here with me, and I put them out. We have them officially out in the back now, on the back sunroom. So I'm happy. You don't have to deal with those chirping parakeets. You having a good Sunday so far?
I am.
Good deal. Can you tell everybody your first and last name and the name of the place and where you guys are, and just tell
Sure.
us like what you guys offer there?
Sure. So I'm Kelly, and I am the owner and co-founder of Team Marines Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We are located in Knightdale, North Carolina, where we have been for the last 10 years this October. Besides Jiu Jitsu, we also offer Shotokan Karate and Judo. So,
I've been asking this lately. I know there's a good reason. I just want your personal answer. Why do you offer those other two? So there's different things that they add to someone's overall, martial arts experience, and what is that? Just so people listening have no idea what those two are.
of course. So Shotokan Karate is because I'm a second-degree black belt in that, and I've been training that for I don't even know how long now, but karate is something that I've been doing well over 20 years. And I think it's really important for people to have striking knowledge. A lot of times that's how fights or confrontations usually start, not always on the ground, right? Usually it's always standing up. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the reasons why we have that too. It's just something I love to do. And I think it's just great. It's not only just physical, but also the spiritual side for me. And then for judo is just awesome, period. And it is just a great martial art to just know, period. And then also if you're doing jiu-jitsu, why not round it out? So I think it's a great way to just become a well-rounded martial artist
Yeah,
overall.
it's all about rounding out, right? I completely agree. I mean, that's my subjective opinion, and that's yours as well. But yeah, I agree. My son used to practice judo for about 6 months or so, and he loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting somebody to the ground so you can start your jujitsu, if you want to put it that way, or whether it's striking someone else or defending yourself, just knowing how to move. I guess it's fighting in itself is so dynamic. It can be so dynamic that anytime somebody says rounding out your martial arts, you probably should lean that way, right?
I would think so. I think there's just so many different aspects to each martial art that you have, even boxing or sambo or aikido, whatever you're choosing to learn. I think it just helps supplement and just further your knowledge as well, and your
Yeah,
self-awareness, spatial awareness, things like that. It can't hurt.
yeah. Anytime I hear somebody that practices jujitsu, who I'm always talking to, that's dogging another martial art, I always say, "Well, what did you learn from that one?" And then they have an answer. So there's always comparison, and contrast, the pros and cons. But what's the youngest person that you what's the youngest age group? And then the second question is, what's the oldest person you've ever trained with or had there? You don't have to say a name. I'm just trying to show people how,
Sure.
30 years old is not too old.
No, we've had kids as young as 2. Most of the kids that we've had are usually starting around 4 or 5. And it also depends on their maturity and their size as well. That's one thing. And we've
Yeah.
had people up into their 70s train with us. So it's a really wide bracket. Overall, I would say our population's probably an older crowd at our school. So most of our instructions are on that older side, except for our judo coaches. We have one, Carl. He is a little bit younger. And then Dylan, who's a really young gun. He was basically almost on the Puerto Rican Olympic team for judo. So he is actually teaching in our school now. He's in his 20s, and that's great to see that spark as well. We do have
Yeah.
a great mix, but I would say we've got a little bit of a more mature crowd.
That's awesome that you offer it for 2-year-olds. Is it kind of like they have to be out of their diapers or not necessarily? That's a good question, right?
Yeah, they should be at that point. Yes.
Okay. Um, what is your kind of like overall philosophy in teaching jujitsu? Just the way you go about it.
Oh, that's so loaded. So, so one of the things, I don't know how much research you've done in the school, but basically, so Team Rains was founded with my late husband and I, and his name was Dan Rains. He passed away actually in a motorcycle accident in 2019. So for the last 7 years, the school has changed a little bit in the whole structure in some ways. So if I could tell you a little bit about Dan and how his life and why we are and his legacy and why we're carrying it out. So Dan was a black belt under Ricardo Almeida out of Trenton, New Jersey, under Renzo Gracie. And I also trained there for a while too, until we moved down here to the Raleigh area, Knightdale area of North Carolina. And Dan taught for Ricardo for about 10 years, until 2016, until we moved down here, and then we opened our own academy that same year. As a matter of fact, I have Dan's first postcard he got from RABJJ from Ricardo. And it says, Daniel, welcome to RABJJ Academy. We look forward to taking you to black belt. With endurance, we conquer. Professor Ricardo Almeida. And that was mailed on 27th of June, 2006. And in 2015, on June 20th, Dan got his black belt from Ricardo. And ironically, he kept that until then. And I've kept that in his memory and his legacy. And Dan was a real jiu-jitsu gi wizard. His nickname was the Mad Scientist, as a matter of fact. He was a geologist in his real life, but when he came to the mat, he was just fantastic with gi grips. He was just amazing. He studied the game as well. I have so many books and notebooks where they're just notes, and he was just always this perpetual student. He never really thought himself as a teacher or professor. He was just passing on that knowledge. And I think that was the big thing about when we came down and opened the school. The philosophy that we have is join the legacy. And we want to keep that legacy going of learning the technique and breaking it down and having people learn it and learn it the correct way, and then keeping that level of knowledge moving forward instead of having it watered down like we saw with the karate big binge and ebb and flow in the 80s and 90s, which kind of destroyed the sport here in America, unfortunately. I'd like to see that come back. I don't know if it will anytime soon. But right now, our philosophy is at the school is called Move a Pebble. And that was brought forth from John Lovett. He was a sensei of mine. Dan actually started taking Shotokan karate as well before he passed away. And when Dan and I moved down to North Carolina, Sensei John Lovett gave him a book it was the best series from Shotokan, and inside he wrote Move a Pebble. And basically it is somewhat similar to the butterfly effect, that even if you're having a really rough day, you're trying to make a difference in the world, all you need to do is just move a pebble, and you have indeed changed the face of the earth in some way. So that's what we're trying to do in that sense. So after Dan's passing, the school really transformed. We had just tremendous support from our family up in New Jersey and from surrounding schools. Professor Bongiorno, Steve Bongiorno, has just been amazing. Pete McHugh. Oh my goodness. I could just name so many people like Drew Puzon who come down. They've stayed with me. They've taught seminars. Keith Parker. We've had some of McHugh's guys like Russ and some other guys who've come down and Mike and done seminars with us. And they've always just been ardent supporters of the school. Whatever they can do, they're there to help us. And that has just been so instrumental, because knowing that we have that support from afar really helps when it's a grind down here. Because all of our coaches, they work regular jobs too. We try to like run it like a school, not a business. We don't want to get into that monetizing because to us, this is more of a community service. It's giving Dan's legacy. Dan did not grow up wealthy. He actually grew up in a more disadvantaged state, I would say. He's always had to grind his entire life. And I think the last 2 years of his life were the best. He loved teaching jiu-jitsu. He wanted it to make it accessible to everyone in the community, and that's what we're trying to do.
When you say move a pebble, is that being implemented in a sense of learning jiu-jitsu or their effect on the outside world outside of jiu-jitsu?
It's both. I think that's one of the things that we try to do. One of the things I think that is a philosophy that keeps going through our circle is kids have to learn how to learn. And I think that's really important nowadays. I think that's sometimes a lost art, and trying to have kids and adults learn that independently, like how to learn how to move their body, how to not only just get it in that muscle memory, but also utilize that knowledge you have and build it together. And then the idea is for you to also be able to teach it. We try to get the kids involved in being ukis, and same thing with the adults and the coaches. Also, the other thing too is we want them to be good citizens. After every class, we say, go home, be a good citizen. That's really important. We want the kids to go check on their neighbors during the heat waves, bring in their garbage for them, check on the elderly, help people. You want to be a pillar of your community, and that's really important. We do food drives. We do clothing drives. We try to do a lot for the community because we don't want to just take from it. We want to be able to provide back to that, and that's really super important to us as well. We could just be a jiu-jitsu school, but if we're not really helping other people besides each other on the mat, I think we're falling short.
Yeah. It sounds like, moving a pebble is kind of like, your husband continuously learning, even if it's incrementally in small ways, but it's a continuous thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also affecting, the outside world, even if it's incrementally in small ways. Is that a good way to put it?
I would say so. And realistically, it is do your best. Just try to do your best every day, and get what you can.
Yeah. Take me back to when this all started. I know you kind of already have. Tell me kind of like how you got into it. Why did you love this, jiu-jitsu, and kind of why did you continue to be in the sport?
Sure. So I would always laugh and say that Dan started around the same time that I did. Because when I had moved to New Jersey, I actually lived down south. I lived in Alabama for several years, kind of close to Pensacola. I used to dive down there all the time.
Okay.
So scuba dive, yes. And when
Gulf
I came
Shores
up,
area or Pensacola? Gulf
yeah,
Shores?
Pensacola. Mm-hmm.
Pensacola? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think essentially when I moved back up north, Dan had talked about it with me, but I was also training karate towards the shore. New Jersey is about where we were. It was about 35, 40 minutes where I would go train karate. And they also offered jiu-jitsu at the time. So I was quite excited to do that as well. Where I was in Alabama, we did not have any jiu-jitsu schools at the time. This is 2005. And of course, that's when we just started seeing that. So that's when I started.
Yeah.
And then once Dan was teaching at Ricardo's, and once I actually had switched dojos to my sensei, Joe McCaskey, his wife, they have a dojo called Paul Shotokan Karate. I started training with them and my good friend Pete Eisenrein and his kids. So that's when I started going to Ricardo's as well, because for me, it was just easier for that training and that transfer and being closer. So,
yeah. Got it.
And I was really lucky when I started. Ricardo's always had great guys and great coaches at his gym. And just, I worked for him for a short time too within his marketing department. So that was really interesting seeing how things really worked in the background. He was still fighting in the UFC at that time. And a lot of the guys that were training there have their schools now in the Jersey area. And that was just really interesting to see. And also seeing the guys who would come in and be fighting at the time. Eddie Alvarez was coming in from Red Door in Philly, and then Frankie Edgar. And, all the guys would be there, at their MMA class and on certain mornings, and just seeing that evolve and seeing Dan teach and just seeing the growth of jiu-jitsu, seeing how it just exploded. And I was just so privileged to see all of these really high level practitioners just in one gym, and just seeing how the progression went, and just seeing, Dan's teammates and partners, them growing and becoming black belts and them opening their own school. So that was just, I was really lucky to see that. It was amazing to be a part of as well.
Was that like time period, a specific time period that jiu-jitsu was quote unquote booming in a way?
Yes.
Maybe there's different, like, I don't want to say iterations, but different levels of the boomingness, even right now with the kids, joining across the country. But yeah, reflect on that a little bit, 2005.
Sure. So I think at the time, really, when you're looking at it's similar to like when we had the karate boom back in the 70s and 80s. We just started having black belts really opening their gyms. And this is obviously before Gracie Baja and some other academies. I know Ricardo's brother Flavio has a big part in working with Gracie Baja. But seeing Ricardo come, a lot of black belts that were training during that period of time, now they have their own schools. So just seeing that was the generation that I was able to see bloom and blossom now. So from going to like 1 to 2 schools, now you have like 10, just in this 120, mile radius, and all of them come from Ricardo's school. And just seeing that, you just didn't have that years ago. So seeing that progression of his students going out and having schools, sometimes multiple locations, and just seeing that work. And it's pretty cool.
And what about, when you first tried jiu-jitsu, what was it like? I mean, compare it to karate, I guess. I don't want to guess. I want you to do that.
Well,
because you did it for a long time, karate.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm short. I'm only 5'1", so I don't have the longest arms and I don't have the longest legs. I'm kind of like a little stump. But it was foreign to me. It was really foreign to me. So I think I really like it. I can't, my heart will always be with Shotokan and karate and Muay Thai, because that's just that's what I know. That's where it is. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing for a lot of people when they first start off. That's just kind of where their home base is. That's where they feel the most comfortable because they've been doing it the longest. Yeah. But for me, for jiu-jitsu, I think it definitely gives me more confidence, especially as a woman. And I think that's so important, because a lot of the techniques that we learn are so key for self-defense and certain positions that we don't want to be in and need to know how to get out of. And I think every woman should train it. If not for sport, just for the self-defense aspect, because I think it's great. I think it's great that kids and teens can learn team sports. It's great they can go place. I love basketball. But the best thing you can give your kid is the ability for them to protect themselves, defend themselves, and save their own life. And what else can you give them besides jiu-jitsu or martial arts? That is, I think, one of the most important things anybody can learn.
Do y'all have more women in jiu-jitsu or judo or the karate?
We have quite a few women in our jiu-jitsu. So not quite
maybe almost equal.
Almost equal. We do have a lot, and we are starting to see more little girls come in, and they're just feral. I would say. I love it. You just let them out of the cage and they're ready to go. And that's
my daughter. My daughter's 3. She's going to start jiu-jitsu soon. I can't wait. She has so much more energy than my son.
It's great. And just seeing them, the girls love rolling together. They like rolling with the boys too, but they have just seeing the connections that they have, and the confidence just skyrockets. And just seeing them throw these other boys around is great. I'm not going to lie. It's just
Sure,
great.
sure. That's cool
Yeah.
for
And
anybody to see.
I think
Yeah,
it's great.
I bet it's
Hmm.
funny. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen it myself. It's always kind of a funny thing. But the boys they don't laugh. They get up.
No.
They don't say nothing.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
I mean,
mm-mm,
they're so. I mean, some of them, 6 to 9 years old, whatever. They don't even know necessarily that that's a thing. Some of them do, but they just
mm-mm.
go in. But I was going to ask, like, how did you get into, teaching martial arts? How did that happen?
My husband. it
Yeah.
was it was one of those things that we started the school, and I was when we started off, we've been through two locations since we have gotten to where we're at now. We started off in a small spot, then we outgrew it, we moved to a different spot, and we actually moved just a couple suites over within our building. So that was great.
Okay.
We've been able to grow and expand. Essentially, I would help him with the classes. Every kid's class I was there helping teach. I would also be teaching Shotokan. So essentially, once he passed, it was just business as usual.
Yeah.
I think that was the big thing. The coaches and the guys came together. And so I just kept teaching the kids' classes and our Shotokan classes, and our coaching team, they've just stepped in. Professor Scott and Ryan and George are our main coaches that we have. Carl's one of our judo coaches, and then we have Dylan, and we've got a couple other guys that help out, but they've just, they're the school. Like, if I can't even say, I'm going to cry. Try not to cry. Why would I cry during a podcast? But just, they've just taken it over, and they've just, the Sunday after we had Dan's funeral, Monday we were teaching, and there was no lapse. There was no time off. It was like, okay, well, this is what we have to do. And ironically, before Dan passed, we were going to promote Scott's black belt. But that did not happen in time. So Pete McHugh, I remember the call we had. Ricardo, I think, was, I'm not sure where it was, Puerto Rico or somewhere. And Pete McHugh from New Jersey flew down and actually promoted Scott at Dan's memorial gathering after his funeral. And from that point, we've just, he has just been a pillar of the school. He's now a second-degree black belt. He is probably one of the most soft-spoken guys, but the man is made of steel, and he will kill you with his thumb, and he is just the nicest person in the whole world.
Well,
And then we've
oftentimes,
got,
having that ability creates,
yeah,
a soft person on the outside. Yeah.
and Ryan and George, they come in and they teach. They all just, they just keep it running smoothly, and they uphold everything that you would want out of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. They're class acts. They're kind. They don't discriminate against anyone, age, size. And I think, I don't think we'd be open if we didn't have the group of guys that we do. And like Professor Ken that we had, he recently got promoted to black belt. He started off with us. So we've got guys that have been with us for 10 years, and
Wow.
they're just our core group of guys, and they're so great. And I think when we talk about the school, ironically, I know I teach, but they're the ones that keep Dan's legacy alive in a lot of ways, because they're able to really, it's not just me, it's all of them
Like
moving.
it's coming out through them.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Do you think they purposefully tried to do that? Or do you think it's natural, or is it both?
I think it's both, but I think they're just naturally, they just aligned with Dan.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they stayed. There are some bigger schools in the area, and all of the schools around us are great. I could not say a bad thing about them. They've all reached out after Dan died. Our community down here is really great. They're just fantastic people all around. So I
Why do you
think
think people love the place? What about it is special? Is there a certain element to it?
I don't know. I think that's one of the things that people can say. I know a lot of times everyone says a lot of times we've got great people, right? And that's usually why you go to a place. You
Yeah,
can have top-notch instruction, but if it's not a jive, or if the environment's not good, or you're not, feeling that, you're not going to stay. Usually you go somewhere else, or you just don't go.
yeah. It's not a job. It's something you're doing because you want to do it. Yeah. You're not going to go. You already have to deal with people elsewhere in life. You're not going to go somewhere and deal with somebody you're not comfortable with. So
Yeah.
there's a reason. That's one reason why they go. Yeah.
And I think
The
even,
culture.
we had Dan die, and then we had COVID, right? And that was just, we were just like, okay, what else can happen? And
Yeah.
I think, I think maybe people just see that our practitioners just really love it. The guys love it, and we
Yeah.
love it. We love teaching, and we just love the sport. And I think, I don't know, when you walk in, it may seem a little odd, but on the right-hand side, we have a memorial wall to Dan. And basically, I have all of his belts. I even have one of his urns in there. So he's there. And sounds weird. He's in a camouflage urn because he was very country from Georgia. Professor Brian Walter, his teacher up in New Jersey, Carter's always used to call him Cotton. He was a hillbilly, I guess you could say, a little bit. And I knew if I put him in a different urn, he'd be very mad at me. But we have his stuff there, and we have the flag that the governor flew for him on. I think it was May 3rd when he died. They flew a flag in his honor because he was a state worker. He was a geologist for the state of North Carolina. And every year we have a memorial wall that we put up of him as well, and just all of the things he did for the community as well. He did fishing derbies and classes for special ed kids, and he was such involved with the community on so many different levels, not even just with jiu-jitsu. He just wanted to really help people. I mean, he'd look on Craigslist, and this may sound creepy, but he wasn't. Like, if kids had a broken bike, or not Craigslist, but Facebook, parents would be like, hey, my kid's got this. He could fix anything. Like, he could hotwire freaking anything, right?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, all right, I'll just go fix this kid's bike. And he would just do it. And that, like, every time we'd be late to somewhere, because if someone had a flat tire, we'd always have to stop in the rain or something like that. He was just one of the greatest, good, salt of the earth guys.
Do you think, having the gym, it was a part of, I mean, did it bring more of the community to him than anything? Was that the biggest element of, why he enjoyed it, was the community aspect? Because that's
Absolutely.
almost always the case. I mean, people talk about the friendships and what comes of that,
Hmm.
um, a little bit more than the sport
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
I think for adults, that's a huge thing, right?
Hmm. It is. And I think that was one of the things that he also helped me coach basketball for 9 years when we were up there, girls, different age ranges. And one of the things, though, down here that I think really meant the most is he'd be home. We were like dead half the time because we would work all day and then go teach. And then we live about 35, 40 minutes away from the school. So it was a
Hmm.
commute home. But I just remember one of the things, Professor Ken, he was, I'm not sure if he was purple belt at the time, but he had his first son, Enzo. And it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And he had sent Dan a picture. He said, hey, Professor, my son's here. And
Mm.
he was one of the first people that he wanted to show his baby to. And when Ken got his black belt last year, he said, I wish Professor Rains was here. And Dan just loved hanging out with the guys afterwards. They'd just be sitting around talking, cleaning up the mat. And I think they were like brothers. And in some ways, he was like a father figure to some of them, or just that was so important, and you could just see that the bonds that they had were really, really strong. And
I had a best friend that lives in Seattle send me a picture of his baby this morning. That's a thing with
that's a
guys.
well,
Send a picture.
congratulations, your friend. Yeah.
Let me
So
ask you this: what has jujitsu specifically um, added to your life? You had karate for so long. Is there any added element that's specific to jujitsu that's been added to your life?
it teaches you so much. I think that's the other thing too. I don't know who said this in Hikaros. Everybody says it. Like, jujitsu is a vehicle for so many things, right? Growth and resilience. I think one of the biggest things that it has taught me personally is, I'd have to say, intestinal fortitude in some ways, because not even just going and teaching, I think some of the things that we had to deal with as a school are a little bit different than what some other academies have had to deal with in that
Sure.
sense. And to keep going, even when it was really hard, some days for me, just coming in and just seeing that wall is just, sometimes it just takes my breath away and you just have to keep going. And
Yeah,
for me, I think the most important thing for me, for the kids and teaching the kids, is really teaching them to be uncomfortable. I think one of the things is that too many people live in comfort these days, and not that you can't grow without discomfort, but I think it's really important to really push your limits a little bit, learn. And sometimes same thing, you just have to keep going. It's the same thing a lot of people say, black belt was a white belt that never quit. You just
yeah,
have to keep going. And sometimes you can't even just think about it, you just have to go. So I think
yeah.
it's very,
That's true. It can
it's
go into the micro level of just getting up and washing the dog. That was me this morning.
exactly.
That's true, though. It relates in so many different ways
It does. It does.
to
Sometimes you
life.
just
Yeah.
have to go. Yeah.
Well, while we're connecting jujitsu to things,
Mhm.
um, I know this is a very open-ended question, and you
Mhm.
just answer it however you want. Uh, I sometimes see connections, and it's hard to put it in words. But I'm asking you this because maybe you will be able to put it in words since you practice jujitsu. Do you ever find any connection uh, with jujitsu and nature?
Yes, I do. And ironically, as I say that, you need to talk to Chris Matakis at Matakis BJJ. Um, who he could talk to you about that for about 2 hours, I think, easy. But for nature, yes, absolutely. I think one of the things is this stillness. I think that's one of the things that's sometimes people become uncomfortable with. And I think jujitsu can teach you stillness within your heart, within your soul, within your mind, even if your body is moving in some way. And I think that's very much reflected in the outside world. You can have stillness, but still have motion. So I think
Yes,
that's one thing that at
that's
least
why
I,
kids it's not dynamic enough going out in nature anymore. They want to be on the cell phones, yada yada.
Mhm,
Um, I mean, that's hitting right on that. Yeah.
mhm.
Uh, it, Understanding, what that stillness means or appreciating it, it's hard. You have to spend time in nature to understand, or appreciate it. I guess same thing with jujitsu, right? It forces you
Yes.
to understand, to appreciate stillness.
Mhm. And sometimes, yes, in many different ways. Yeah.
Excuse me. um, so when somebody comes to you and they just ask, what can jujitsu or any martial art do for my life? Just say outside of training and the physical aspect. Um, let's put it this way, what's there's a lot of ways, of course, but what is
Mhm.
the number one way that you would tell them that they can affect their lives? Or one of the top three?
I think when people a lot of times you'll see, and I see this, for instance, when you see that black belt wrapped around someone's belt, I mean, the black belt wrapped around someone's waist. I think in a lot of ways, some people will say it's the most important thing that they've ever done in their life. And I think because a lot of times the road to black belt is at least 10 years, most of the time, unless, of course, like BJ Penn. And the amount of effort and time and sweat and injury and grind that you have to put in, and not just even just the knowledge, it's just the physical being and the time commitment is huge. It's more than college, right? And for some places, the tuition is, it's expensive. Sometimes it can be expensive as well. So you're putting your time away from your family. You're putting the financial commitment in. And not only that, people who make it that long, right? 2 to 3% is what the standard is of people who join to make it to black belt. And I think it's much less than that who continue after they've hit their black belt, that continue to train. So that number, that percentage substantially lessens. And I think I don't see anybody who goes in there and gets their black belt and says, man, I really regret putting all this time into getting this. I think I've seen people cry. I've seen it changes your life. And I think that's one of the things too, even if you don't talk about belts. I think when you go into doing martial arts, you're doing some form of self-improvement every time you go there. And I think that's one of the big things that sometimes gets lost, right? We could talk about belts and we can talk about rank and whatnot. To me, rank just means more responsibility. It doesn't mean superiority. And I think a lot of times it just means that you've learned the basics and you should be able to, hopefully teach them and master them yourself. But I think that's one of the things that you're just going to better yourself. There is, every time you step on into that dojo, you're going to grow in some way, shape, or form. You're going to either learn defeat or you're going to learn victory or.
Yeah, I think to just kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I think there's always improvement when you struggle. And I think we all know that. The older you get, the more you know that too. I think in martial arts, you have so many different elements of struggle: physical, mental, persistence, emotional, getting injured, all these things. There's this struggle, going back to the gym more than once a week. Because you think about it, most people go at least twice. I think probably most people go like 3 times a week who practice jiu-jitsu or more. Yeah. And so there's just all this struggle. Now you have your friendships and everything that comes from that. But no matter, that is a persistent thing, is the struggle. And so there's always improvement, right?
Yeah. And I think it's similar to like battle buddies and whatnot in the military. You have people that you struggle with and you overcome feats and they're there with you and you help them grow and they help you grow. And I think that's really important too, because you can't really do jiu-jitsu alone. So.
Oh, it's not fun alone. Oh, of course. I know physically you can't.
Kind of hard.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for everything. Thank you for pouring out everything and all your really neat story. What would you like to tell your community there at the gym? Let's just end with that, and then you can tell me if you're on social media, you're on Facebook, right? Of course.
I am. I would just, I don't know. I'd just like to thank all of the fantastic coaches that we have and George and Scott and Ryan and Colin and Carl and Dylan and Josh and everyone else who helps. And oh, John Bruce, he is a fantastic kids coach. He's our Mad Potter. He is just fantastic. He's a huge pillar too, and he's just so smart and so good and so technical. And just the support that we've had from the guys up north, Professor Steve, Drew, Pete, Russ, a lot of the guys up there that just have always just been really good to us, check in on us, say, hey, how you doing? Make sure that we have what we need. Professor Walters and Professor Ricardo, of course, and just they're the reasons why we're here, just keeping that legacy and keeping it moving. And the school's just a building, but it's really the guys and obviously the students and that make up the school. And of course, the wives and the husbands of the students that acknowledge that when, their loved ones come home and they've been training, it's been a long, hard week and they're tired and they know the sacrifice because they've let their spouse train and support them. And then the parents too, with the kids that come and drive the kids and, like you said, sit and talk with each other and cheer each other on at tournaments. It's just
me going 2 minutes down the road, it's not easy. Okay. Our lives are so filled up. Yeah.
So, and thank you for the time to talk about it, Cody. I really appreciate it. It's really important
1,000%. Yeah.
To get different perspectives on jiu-jitsu. I think like you said, the little stories help really weave the certain fabric of what the whole community is.
Of it. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much. Are you guys on Instagram as well?
Not so much Instagram. We're mostly on Facebook.
Because everybody's on Facebook. Yeah.
I guess. I mean,
the general public. Especially the parents are.
Yeah. I think we're just older. I think we're just still with that Facebook.
But that's what I mean. Like, mostly anybody that trains or it would be the parents for the young kids. They're, on Facebook. I'm 40. I guess Facebook started 2007 and I was in college at that point. So anybody 40 and older. But yeah, thank you so much. So nice to meet you. Okay. And I'll reach out again. And I hope you have a wonderful Sunday already.
You too. Thanks, Cody.
Yeah, very welcome. Thank you. Bye, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, man, how's it going today?
It's going great. Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much for being on. You got a beautiful backyard, beautiful green grass. At least it's showing up that way on the video here.
Yes, I've invested a lot into this grass so my dogs would have a comfortable playground.
Okay. Yep. I got 20 acres here on my family's house. They live just 5 minutes down the road from us.
Oh, nice.
So we come here a lot and we got grass galore, but it takes 4 hours to mow the thing each week. So
sure.
Can you tell us your first and last name, the name of the place and where you guys are?
So my name's Saad, Al-Aziz. The name of our school is Semper Fortis Jiu, and we are located in San Antonio, Texas.
Got it. And what do you guys offer there? Just talk about like the different classes, the different age groups, and just kind of riff on if you want to go over times, anything.
Sure. So we start kids at age 6 and up. There's no maximum age. I think the oldest student we've had has been like 70 years old. And, we'll train you.
Sometimes I ask that to see if we can break the record.
And we train our students in both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. And
got it.
Kids and adults.
Got it. Okay. Why do you, this is kind of, any kind of like, quote unquote, stupid questions I'm going to ask just to get out subjective opinions. Why do you include Judo?
I've always admired Judo and their ability to take their opponent to the ground is just really second to none. And so having a Judo program where my students are learning to, one, take them to the ground, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sort of complements, what to do to them on the ground. And if you can do both, it makes you a very effective, not only competitor in the sports arena, but very effective for self-defense, just getting it to the ground. And judo is incredibly effective at that.
Yeah. Because that's always like the question with jujitsu is, how do you get them to the ground to start? Yeah.
Right.
And what
And it's,
about, do you have an opinion on like implementing wrestling?
I think wrestling is great. I have a collegiate wrestler who he does my no-gi classes a lot. So like he'll fill in and help with wrestling takedowns, and I think that's phenomenal too. Because the grappling arts, they all complement each other. So a person that trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it'd be beneficial to train judo in, wrestling. And if you have all three, man, when I have students that come in that are like collegiate wrestlers or high school wrestlers, it doesn't take them long to get really good at Jiu-Jitsu, especially being able to grapple on the ground, because it's just natural movements they already have.
What do you think wrestling adds to Jiu-Jitsu? What does it have that maybe Jiu-Jitsu, like what are some things that it has that Jiu-Jitsu doesn't necessarily have all the time?
Probably how it enhances you the most is their persistence in getting to a dominant position. So like where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very comfortable just being on your back, having somebody in your closed guard, where wrestlers don't want to be on their back. And they are very efficient at getting a dominant position. And that, if you are able to get a dominant position, that will really enhance your ability to get submissions. Because a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy can get submissions off his back and closed guard, but it's like, if I have a choice, I'd much rather get my submissions from the mount or having my opponent's back and make my attacks there.
Yeah. So Jiu-Jitsu is not necessarily like pushing to get on top necessarily. It's kind of about being effective wherever you are and being comfortable and effective wherever you are. But wrestling pushes that aspect of being on top, right? Got it.
Wrestlers are very, they're very aggressive and just super effective. And, my teacher, Luis Pajaras, he's an 8th degree coral belt, and his teacher was Holes Gracie. And Holes was notorious for instituting judo and wrestling into his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. And it made the people that he trained very effective in both sport competition as well as self-defense. And Holes was really a legendary member of the Gracie family until he died in a hang gliding accident at 32. But, one of the wrestling coaches tells a story of he was a U.S. wrestling coach. He was brought to Brazil to help the Brazilian Olympic wrestling team. And he said Holes met him at the airport and said, "Yeah, this is us." And they went back to the school, and he said he was there for about a week before he realized this is not the Brazilian wrestling team. But Holes really wanted to learn wrestling. And
what?
So I forgot the guy's name. It was like Bob something. And he tells the story in a book about, how he met Holes Gracie, and, he thought this was the Brazilian wrestling team, and it wasn't. It was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
What a dang story. Oh my God. What about your methodology and teaching? Kind of, what's your philosophy or, the method of how you teach?
I try to meet people where they are. Like, like if I have a student, like I have a student that's 70 years old, I don't expect him to do cartwheels down the mat, and backflips. There's certain things that, he's limited to where he cannot do. I have another student I just recently promoted to black belt, Domingo, who he's a U.S. Army veteran, and he lost his left arm in an IED explosion in Iraq. So he has 3 limbs, vice 4. And so I had to modify with jiu-jitsu for him. And that was a challenge, as a teacher, because he started with me as a white belt. Now he's a black belt. And it was like, I learned the techniques using 4 limbs. And now I'm trying to help Domingo grow by modifying techniques for 3 limbs by 4. And so what I try to do is
So he was like the perfect
meet my
example
students
of
where they
like
are.
individualized, teaching, right?
Yeah, like it would be easy if like all my students came in and they was 20 years old, 6'3", 225 pounds of ripped muscle, like 3% body fat that can do backflips and gymnastics, and be like, it would be easy to train those guys up, to be champions. Where it becomes challenging is people that, like have, whether they have disabilities or, age is a factor. Like I turned 58 in 2 months. There's things that I can no longer do that when I was in my 20s I could do. At 58, that ship has sailed. I can't do certain things. My body's like, my mind's like, yeah, you can still do this at 20. And it's like, my body's like, no, you can't.
Have
And
you
so I
gotten
try
to
to
the
meet
point
my
where you
students where
know
they're
that
at.
and you stop yourself, or are you continuing to
Oh, no, a lot
try?
of times I'm sore the next day. It's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have trained that hard. Because
I'm
recovery
40,
just
so
takes longer at 58
yeah,
than it did at 18.
yeah. I'm 40, so like I'm starting to kind of notice myself actually. I mean, of course, I don't have a lot of stuff that I have to watch out for, but here and there, I don't know. I notice myself not don't do that. Wait, slow down or whatever. Or telling
Right?
other people, telling younger people like 20 or 30-year-olds, well, you don't have to go so fast. Calm down. Like moving
Yeah,
furniture or anything.
sure.
Um, can you go back as far back as you want and kind of tell us like how did you get into jujitsu, why, what it did for your life, that kind of thing, and kind of lead up
Sure.
to you owning the place?
So in the 80s, I did boxing. And then in the 90s, I did a Korean martial art called Hapkido. And I have a black belt in Hapkido. And the Navy transferred me to Beaufort, South Carolina in 2005. And there was no Hapkido school there. So there was an MMA school there. And I was like, well, I just want to train. And, we're always in the military, we're always working on our fighting skills. And I'm like, I'll train with these MMA guys. And,
Mhm.
when we was on our feet, my punches and kicks, that was very problematic for them. But
Mm.
as soon as they took me to the ground, it was so humbling. And I'll never forget the first guy. He was a retired Marine named Walt Rukowski. He took me to the ground, and I gave him everything I had. And I could not get back up off the ground. He just controlled me on the ground, and I was stuck.
Mhm.
And I think I took about 2 weeks off after that. It was so humbling. And I came back 2 weeks later to the school, and
Wow.
we start our sparring. And now I'm sparring with Walt's 15-year-old son. And I kid you not, I gave this kid everything I had on the ground, grappling with him. Like, I left no energy on the table. I gave him my best, and this kid still beat me. And matter of
Okay.
fact, I tried so hard in that I think maybe a 5-10 minute round max, that as soon as the round was over, I had to walk outside and throw up. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, how did this 15-year-old kid just humble me like this? Like I gave him everything I had, and it still wasn't enough. And, like I said, I used to box. I had a black belt in Hapkido. I was in the Navy. I'm in pretty good shape. Like, so in my mind, there's no way a 15-year-old kid is going to beat me. And I gave this kid everything I had, and I had nothing for him. And so I realized at that moment that I needed to learn jiu-jitsu, because what people do is they do one of two things when that humbling event happens. They either pretend like it never happened and they never come back to jiu-jitsu, or they do what I did and they become a white belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they figure out, like, what is this magic? Because at the time it seemed like magic. Like, what is it these guys know that I don't know that's enabling them to just handle me so easily? And it wasn't because the kid was stronger than me. It wasn't a strength issue. He wasn't bigger than me. But technically, he just destroyed me. And no matter how hard I tried, there's nothing I could do with him. And that
Hmm.
motivated me to start studying jiu-jitsu.
And when you started to study, what did you like about it the most? What was the element that you liked about it the most?
It was one, a great workout, so it was giving me good cardio workout. It it enhanced my military skills, because the military is very focused on, being able to defend yourself. Like if you're walking through a city and you're holding your rifle and a guy without a uniform comes up and grabs your rifle, maybe your big right hooks could save the day, but you're going to need to know some skills to maintain that rifle. Otherwise, your rifle is now his. And now you got a huge problem. And so the military, starting with the Iraq War back in 2003, started to really put a focus on hand-to-hand combat, because we were now meeting enemies in the field who didn't have uniforms. And say you're walking through a city street doing a patrol, and there's all these people not in uniform. You just can't open fire on everybody, because you don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are. And usually the bad guys will identify themselves when they close in on you. And you have to be able to maintain your weapon and, overcome this situation. So learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu enhanced my military career because it gave me those skills. And it also, it gives you a degree of confidence when you can fight. Not that you want to go around fighting people, but sometimes like I would have guys who would come in my office and like I'd be working with the U.S. Marine Corps, and the guy, he could be 6'3" with the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger, just ripped with muscle. And when you've trained, you're like, I'll still take him, and that changes the conversation, because I knew some officers who could get intimidated by these physical specimens, who were tough guys, and where like I was able to look at them like, nah, you're not intimidating me. And that changed the dynamic of my relationship with the Marines that work with me. Is like, nah, I don't think you can take it. And so not being intimidated. And sometimes, you'll notice that even in society where a more dominant, physically dominant person will somewhat intimidate a person, whether that person is smaller than them or maybe a little bit less athletic than them. And, I would see it in grade school, middle school, high school, and even in adult life, like bullying doesn't stop in school. Sometimes it's still in your workplace. And I think when you have a skill set, not that, learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ensures that you can beat every bully or every bad guy, but you got a better fighting chance than you have if you don't train.
Maybe you have a better chance of like kind of controlling the situation before it gets to a fight as well, right? I've heard that before, because of your confidence, and you're just not like swept into a fight as easily.
Yeah, I think sometimes, the bullies of the world can smell the fear, so they can see the confidence even in you, even if, you're in smaller stature. It's like, why is this guy so confident?
Yeah.
And I think people can read that signal. And like, I haven't been in a street fight since the 80s. I was a teenager back then. And, people are like, why do you train so much? Are you worried about a fight? And it's like, no, I'm just always prepared for a fight, but I'm not looking for a fight. And usually if I'm in some type of verbal confrontation, I use what I would call my verbal jiu-jitsu, where it's like, I'm able to talk myself out of a combative situation so it doesn't get physical. But it's nice to know that there is more behind my no than hope. Like, I hope this guy doesn't take it any further than this. I hope when I say, hey, don't do this to me or my family, I hope it stops there. Where it's like, no, I've got something more than hope behind my words, but I'd like it to stop with the words.
When you opened the academy, what was your kind of like your main goal? What was your goal for the place? What did you want to accomplish, really?
It was making a transition for me from the U.S. military to civilian life. So San Antonio, Texas was my last duty station in the Navy. And I had been in the Navy at that point for 30 years. And it was like, what am I going to do after the Navy? And, you think about getting jobs and stuff. And so what happened was the Navy transferred me here in 2016. And my wife and I, we immediately opened Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu as soon as we got here. And she was working it full time and I was doing it part time because I was still working for the Navy. And we did that for about 2 years because I retired in November of 2018. And then now we both, that's our full-time job running the school. And it made it easy transition for me because once as I was thinking about retiring from the Navy, I really didn't want to go work, for somebody else. I didn't want a corporate position. I didn't want a civil service government position. I was like, it's nice to be able to work for yourself. And now what I have is, for 33 years in the Navy, I experienced a lot of family separation. Like my son, I missed his birthday 5 years in a row. And now I don't miss any more birthdays because me and my wife, one, we go to work together every day, which is the school we own. And I don't consider it work because it's always just been a hobby for me. But I happen to own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. And so we go to work every day. My daughter, who is 18, she works at the school. My son, who is 33, matter of fact, he's a San Antonio police officer. He comes in and trains at the school. So and now my grandson, who's 5, he's here for the summer with me and he's training jiu-jitsu with me. So it's like a family thing. And for me, it's like, it's such a wonderful thing because there was so much family separation over my 33-year Navy career. And now it's like, I don't miss those events no more because every day I'm with my family and we're just doing family stuff, which might be trying to choke each other or joint lock. But, it's like, it's really a wonderful thing to be able to just be with my family all the time.
Can you talk about the culture there that's at the academy and kind of what the academy is doing for people, why they keep coming back, why you think they keep coming back, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the difference because each school is going to be different. Like some schools are going to be MMA schools. They're going to train fighters for the cage. Some schools are going to be heavy Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition schools where it's like they're preparing competitors to win the world championships or the ADCC. And then some schools are going to be just strictly self-defense schools where they're teaching you, how to deal with street combat. What I try to do at my school is just, some of my students compete, but, there's better schools in town to prepare them for the world championships or to prepare them to be MMA fighters. Like I don't run an MMA program at my school. Where what we try to do is like teach people how to defend themselves from kids to adult. And if they want to compete, we go to the tournaments, we cheer them on and give them the best. Yeah. So, I've had, young 20-year-olds and like they're better off if their goal is to be a world champion, it's like, there's other schools in town that can better prepare you because to be a world champion black belt adult division is somebody that's training, that's their full-time job. If you talk to, I don't know how many jiu-jitsu guys but say you talk to Gordon Ryan, he hasn't had another job besides Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like that's been his job. Like, well, now he runs a school, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is what he does. Where a guy like you and I, we do our 9-to-5 job. And then with what energy we have left over, we go train jiu-jitsu. And so you're not going to be at the same level as him because you're not professionally training as far as like you have a dietitian, you wake up in the morning, you do jiu-jitsu, maybe you take a nap, you go lift weights in the gym, and then, you do another jiu-jitsu class and then maybe take another nap and then you come back at the end of the day and do another jiu-jitsu class. And it's like where, the average person, it's like, oh, you do your 9-to-5 job. And then with what energy you have left over, if you don't have any family commitments, kids soccer game or, school PTA or whatever, you go and you train your jiu-jitsu. And so it's just going to be a different experience. in a different level. Sort of like a guy can love golf and golf all the time, but he's not going on the PGA Tour. Like seems
Yeah.
like every president we ever had spends a great amount of time, on the golf course, but they're not winning
Right.
the Masters, So
Right.
it's like, but you can do it because you enjoy it. And that's sort of what my focus is. I'm trying to teach people self-defense, but also I want them to enjoy it. And I want them to make it a lifestyle where it's like you're getting good cardio work, you're learning self-defense, you're fitting into a sense of community. And that's I think my niche for my business,
Yeah.
where I'm marketing, where another school is marketing to like, hey, we are going to get you to the UFC. It's like I've had kids come in and be like, hey, they want to be UFC fighters, and I'll give them, information on good MMA schools in town because those schools are going to prepare them. Where it's like I don't have a striking program at my school, I don't have a cage to train in at my school. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're focused on. We put our gis on and we're training.
Yeah. Kind of focus on self-defense, competition if they want, but
Right.
also always, what it does beyond the physical. What if somebody asks you, like, what can jujitsu, let's talk about kids. What can jujitsu do for my kid? What
Well,
do you tell them?
that's probably our biggest target audience has been the kids. And it's because the reality is, especially if you're a boy, you're going to get bullied in school. Like, I'm sure girls do too, but boys get bullied and they have to fight. And in a perfect world, there wouldn't be any bullies. Our children wouldn't have to fight in school. But the reality is they're going to have to. Like, no matter how much I try to protect my kids or now my grandkids, I know that some bully is going to come around and cause them a problem, whether that's going to be in grade school, middle school, high school, or all, I knew kids growing up that were bullied from grade school through high school, just nonstop. People bullied them. And so that's been a lot of my customer bases. Parents coming in or grandparents coming in and their wits end because their child is being bullied. The schools aren't able to help them, or it's, it's just, they're not getting any help. And it's like, well, what can you do? Well,
You have to go somewhere beyond that, right?
yeah, like I can
Someone
teach a child how to defend themselves. I hope they don't have to use it, but they may, and it can change, whether like your child even wants to go to school anymore. Because, I've seen kids who are bullied so bad, they don't want to go to school anymore. They'll drop out of school. And it's like, I hate for violence to be the only answer, but in some cases, self-defense, bringing violence through self-defense is the only answer.
Yeah, sure, sure.
And in a perfect world, that wouldn't exist. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
That's how it is. Yeah. Well, thank you, man, for your cool story. I really appreciate you being on. So nice to talk to you today.
I appreciate you. It's always good to meet somebody new in the community or somebody that might join the community. And I wish your kids all the best in their training jiu-jitsu. And who knows, maybe one day you'll train.
It's not work for me at all. It's not work for me at all. I really enjoy it. I think I enjoy it the most because it's, I only do something that my passions are only things that I believe are really important things.
Right.
So I think that it's really important to get these granular stories out so people can relate to their lives, because I think the message of jiu-jitsu has not gotten out fully, and that's natural yet, So yeah, man. So I always end it with are you on social? Can you tell us your socials? Are you on Facebook? And
yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's at Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu. Same thing with my Instagram at Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu. I have a Facebook page for Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu, and it's really what caused my old mind to at 58, I probably wouldn't be on social media at all. But because I own a jiu-jitsu school, it's like, well, I had to do the web page. And then when I learned that YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter and Facebook could all be used as beneficial marketing, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a learning curve, but yeah, I'm on social media, and I try to answer questions when people have a question about jiu-jitsu or about their school. Originally, it was just for my students, but I started getting questions from around the country, and it's like, if you got a question, cool. I'll answer it.
Yeah, see what it can do. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man. So nice to meet you, and I'll reach out soon, all right?
Cool. Thank you, Cody. I hope you have a great one. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you, my friend.
100%. Thank you as well. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.